So let's talk about this interview on Breakfast Club with everybody saying that club might be coming to an end soon. But it was Mike Johnson. I guess he woulda, coulda, shoulda been the first black bachelor. Didn't happen. I guess he didn't win. I don't watch the show, so I don't know. But yeah. I just want to talk about something I heard on the show because I had my own epiphany about mating and dating and proximity, and he kind of like somewhat confirmed my worldview. And now my phone's ringing. But anyways, that interruption is over with. But so the dude was on the Breakfast Club talking about a bunch of stuff. Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club chose to focus on the whole situation with him being on the show. He could have been the first black bachelor, but he lost. And his love interest was a white girl and all that. And Charlemagne's the biggest troll when it comes to that. This is the same weird dynamic of let's pressure the brother who on a show that might not date or dates everybody, dates black women and dates other races of women, while ignoring the fact that their co-host is a byproduct of that very same thing. She's pro girl black, you know what I mean? Every time somebody on the show, Angela Yee be like us and ours and this and that, and I'm just like, stop it. But I'm saying it's just that confusion where you got a whole biracial woman on your show, and ignore that while at the same time you poop on the black men who come on the show who date other races of women. And despite all of that, Charlemagne is the last person to talk because we have him on tape talking about that white Nubian vagina and how much he loves it so much. Right? He's the wrong guy to even bring that up. But yet he's always the biggest troll because he think that he been with the same girl for 23 years and cheated on her and done all types of dirt, that somehow he's got a pass. And I don't understand how all his feminist allies give him that pass, being that he's been a horrible husband to his wife over 20-something years he's been together with her. But nonetheless, Charlemagne's trolling him about being with the white girl. Dude kind of was getting irritated about it. Didn't want to talk about some of the things like that because it's a setup, right? They come on the show. Charlemagne asks these questions that he knows are going to go viral. He knows they're going to be the blogs. He knows the colorists and the crybabies and the Blackistans and the swirls are going to be all in their feelings over this interview eventually. I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm sure it'll come soon. So he did what he do, right? He's good for radio. It is what it is. But the man said a few things that gave me the indication that kind of solidified my opinion when it comes to dating and mating and proximity. And something that Jaden Black said a while ago. He said, one of the reasons why you see more swirling in the NFL than you do necessarily in the NBA is because in the NBA, a lot of these dudes can go one and done. And at one point in time, these dudes didn't even have to go to college. So their proximity to other women and other things were somewhat smaller. Now, the first thing the pro-blackity black buttholes are going to say is, oh, wasn't no black girls at some colleges and this and that. And like, obviously it is. But that doesn't mean that you have, and this is something we never talk about again in this conversation, about chemistry and contrast and likability and having the same worldviews and whatnot. We don't ever talk about that. We just look at the he a swirler or she a bad one, she a bad buck, and we leave it at that. But we never talk about the chemistry part of it. But yeah, like, that's something that, I noticed. Like, when I was in college in football, my schedule was set up to the place where I ain't see black folks until noon or 1, and that was like me to go get lunch and get ready for practice. Like, that's how it be set up in these PWIs when you go to those type of schools. I guarantee you, if you look at how many black men who left the NFL, who went to NFL from an HBCU, I'm pretty sure the chances of them being with the black woman is pretty goddamn high, right? That's just logic and reason. But I noticed in my own personal life, right, that most of my boys that made a career out of the military, they didn't end up with black women. Most of my boys who moved to the West Coast, they didn't end up with black women. One boy went to Arizona, he ended up with a Mexican. My other boy, he ended up marrying a Filipino-Mexican chick. That didn't work out. He went to the NFL actually for a little bit, and he ended up being with, I think he with a Becky now, which he was one of those dudes, like what the dude said on the show too, like, don't bring home a white girl, this and that, was from his grandmother, jokingly, make sure the girl can use your comb. So you have a dude who consciously was brought up and raised, don't swirl, don't bring home this and that, but then that military thing taking you across the world, open you up a little bit, you lose some of that shit, because a lot of the stuff you are taught and you're seeing when you're in a limited space, when you go out the country, man, you come back different. And we saw what happened to Malcolm X when he went to Mecca and he came back. A lot of his philosophy changed a bit. So I also I think that he kind of co-signed my little epiphany about proximity. And when you leave the country, when you join the military, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be open to a lot of different things, and you're gonna probably get rid of things that you were holding on to, whether it be religion or views on how a household should run. You might become stricter. You might become more patriarchal going to the military, going to some of the other countries, seeing what goes on. You know, and you might open your horizons when it comes to dating, whatever. And that's what the dude said. He said once he went to the Air Force, then he went to Texas, University of Arizona. That's another school where, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of black people in Arizona. It's not. I remember I went there for family reunion one year, and like every black person I saw there, and this is before the '08 crash, but like this is when like everybody was moving there. They had the no three strikes rule. They was building up like Home Depot plazas with everything out of nowhere. Obviously, it was the first person to get hit during the crash because it was the biggest boom. Was Vegas and LA, but every black person I walked into, I'm like, yo, where Marshall's at? Where this is at? Where that at? And they didn't like, yo, I just got here, dog. I don't know. Like, literally every black person I seen. And it was the weirdest. I'm used to being a minority to white folks. I live in New York, Western New York. My city, predominantly white. 72%. I didn't even know it was that bad. Of course. But I've been to the mall, right? And I've been a minority amongst white folks. That's the standard in America. If you live in the South or whatever. But I ain't never been like, I went to the mall, I ain't see so many goddamn Indians and Mexicans, and it wasn't even a lot of white folks. Like that's all you saw. The black people would have stood out drastically. And that was my first time ever experiencing that, being a minority to so-called other minorities. But yeah, he went to Arizona, and that's a different place to go, and end up being not around a lot of black folks. But I don't know what y'all think about the dating and mating and proximity. It's just certain things, like when you say certain things to me, I don't, like I did the video about Harris Faulkner from Fox News and how military brat, grew up overseas. When you add all those things together, it's like, I don't expect her to end up with a black man. Or Serena and Venus, they play the whitest sport ever. All that Compton stuff and all that don't matter. They play a universal sport, an international sport, and it's one of the whitest sports ever. The chances of them ending up what they ended up with, it's not far-fetched. It's like almost, I would be surprised if they went the other route. And I'm saying maybe that would help some of these black folks who are in their feelings, the pro-blackers who are anti-relations of interracial relationships, but they appreciate and accept the products of those relationships, which is still confusing to me that they still doing that in 2019. Maybe they would fall back if they open up their mind a little bit and say, well, 9 times out of 10, if you do X, Y, Z, this is the chances that's going to happen, right? The black people who take their kids out the hood and go to the burbs, and then when it's time for prom, like, what you think they're gonna do? What you think they're gonna do when your kid get recruited to one of these these prestigious schools, and they take them out the hood, and it's a better education, and it's not, they got to catch multiple buses to get there, whatever. Who do you think they're gonna date when it's time to come to prom and stuff like that? Like, people don't connect the dots. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going back to the hood to go find LaQuisha, right? He's just not doing that. Right? You don't want him to do that. You left that area for a reason. But that's just my thoughts. It's like the brother kind of like confirmed something that I had. He's another example that shows me like, yo, when your proximity, your environment has a lot to do with who you end up being with and dating. Right? And I'm saying that for black men and black women. And someone has already said this, I think BG McMore said it. But if you want to find, like, if black women really wanted to swirl, the number one place they would go is the military, because that's where you see the highest concentration of black women who swirl. And I said that about Harris Faulkner, who wasn't serving, but her father was, so she was a military brat. But most of these black girls that's in the Army and in the Navy, they're dating and messing with non-black men. It's just facts. That's the highest concentration you will find of swirling. If those women did not go to the Navy or the Air Force or whatever, then they would have never come in contact with those other different people, and they would have stayed in their community, and they would end up with a black person. So it's like proximity does have a lot to do with mating and dating and in your environment. Don't remove that, right? The reason why the bald-headed eagle, beta male, female coon is always crying, because she's in one of the whitest states in the country, in Washington, and she's crying about, well, my brother do this and my brother do that, and this, and my uncle's this and my uncle's that, and I'm like, okay, where do you live at? Like, the chances of them meeting and dating their own in a space where it's limited a number of y'all, what do you think is gonna happen? Like, it's not rocket science. It's not. But that's my video. I was just thinking, as I was listening to this interview, I don't even know why I listened to it, because I haven't been feeling a lot of this, content no more. Like, a lot of this stuff is just old and trash. And I'm finding myself watching the stuff that's supposed to be the underdogs or stuff that wasn't as good. But, like, the Breakfast Club is like, I think they're at their wins. It's like, I don't know. Something up with that club is going on. I don't know. They interview the same people over and over again, and it's all the same stuff, and it's the same pattern. The same thing that Charlamagne did, the same spiel of he harped on him having relationships with white women the whole episode. Like, when this man, and then going to talk about, man, you should have led with the mental health stuff over that stuff. And, like, no, y'all invited him up there because of that. He would have never got up there if it wasn't for him being on that show, right? So don't get fake and talking about, man, this is more important and this is something that's actually valuable. If he was talking about that first and only that, y'all wouldn't have him up there. So to stop acting stupid.